Hi, thanks for stopping by Fix, Tinker, Review, Repeat. I'm Ken. Today I'm going to review the Latch.it Portable RV Macerator Pump. This is an accessory that when I bought my RV, I had no idea that I needed this. Hi, thanks for stopping by Fix, Tinker, Review, Repeat. Today I'm going to review the Latch.it Portable RV Macerator Pump. Now before I get started, I just want to let you know that this was provided to me from Latch.it. I'm going to give it a review, show you what it can do, how to hook it up, put it through its paces. I'm going to take it apart to show you what's inside the pump, and then you decide whether or not this is an accessory that you need for your RV. Let's see what's inside and what comes with the Latch.it Portable RV Macerator Pump. Of course, we have the operating manual. It has some specifications, how to hook it up electrically and to your black and gray water waste tank, and also some maintenance and technical information. It comes with a nylon soft carrying case. It has 3 cables. One is an extension cable, and then you have 2 other cables with on-off switches. One comes with a cigarette lighter plug with an internal fuse and a polarized connector on the other end for connecting to the pump. Comes with a flushing valve with on-off and a quick connect that you can use on your garden hose for flushing out the pump after use. Comes with a 1-inch ID piece of hose that you can use for connecting either your garden hose with the included hardware and plumbing hardware with some hose clamps and fittings. And of course, the macerator pump itself. The macerator pump has a short length of 14 gauge cable with a polarized connector that connects onto the provided cables. The motor housing is made of metal and the pump housing is hard plastic. We have the exit port here, which we'll connect the hoses on later on, and this is the port for flushing out with fresh water. You can see that there's an inlet here for purging this and flushing it out with some fresh water. And here's your quick connect for your hose. The pump comes with a stainless steel impeller blade, you can see down inside, and that will chop up the solid waste in your black tank into 1/8 inch or smaller particles for discharge through the garden hose. The pump is rated at 12 gallons per minute at 12 volts and draws 12 amps. Now this is meant for intermittent use. You can run it for a number of minutes, maybe 15 to 30 minutes, and then rest it, and then you can continue on. But in use, you're probably not going to need to run this for more than 10 or 15 minutes in any case. The bottom of the pump has a small bracket with rubber feet, and this will, if you have this sitting on a surface, it will eliminate vibration. I will take the front part of the pump apart so you can see how it's constructed. Now this has the standard bayonet mount for your RV. It also has a rubber gasket here. You got to make sure that the rubber gasket is in place before you actually put it onto the bayonet fitting. So let's connect it. Let's put it through its paces and see what it can do. Before I get started in hooking this macerator pump up and putting it through its paces, I just want to point out that I put together an extension cable that I purchased on my own and some battery clips, which I'm going to use to be clipping onto the positive and negative posts of my RV battery. So this did not come with the macerator pump. These were purchased afterwards. Although this part of the cable with the on-off switch did come with the macerator pump. Looks like we're all set to go. I used a short piece of the 1-inch tubing that was provided in the kit. We have the hose clamp on the discharge port, and the brass fitting here. This is where we'll connect on the garden hose for discharge into the septic system. I'm going to be using a 3/4 inch ID hose. I'm going to need about 70 feet. Let's get it installed on the RV and pump some waste. And I'm going to use a small piece of clear pipe so I can see what's going on. The macerator pump. Check the rubber gasket here. Make sure that it seals properly. Okay, nice firm connection. And I'm going to use a small wooden block here just to provide a little bit of extra support because I'm using this extra piece of tubing here. I also want to point out that some of you may have this secondary gate valve. I took this off for this purpose to test out the pump. And I don't think this will make too much of a difference, but I just didn't want to have all this extra weight on the system during my demo until I'm comfortable with using this macerator pump. So I have the battery clips, red to red, black to black. Red is positive, black is negative. And before I energize the pump, I just want to make sure that we have correct polarity and we have adequate voltage, which we do. Okay, everything's connected, and I want to make a run with clean water before I run any waste through the macerator pump. So this is my garden hose with fresh water. I'm going to turn this on and turn the macerator pump on, and then make sure all the connections are not leaking. Okay, pull the hose out and see if we have water flow. Let me see the water flow. Hold up the hose. Okay, very good. Put the hose back in. That's fresh water now. That's clean water. Put the hose a little bit further back in. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's pump some poo. Open the black tank. Oh, nasty, nasty, nasty. Okay, I'm going to turn the macerator pump on. I have about 3/4 full in the black tank. Pump is fairly quiet. And you can see the particulates and the waste flowing down. Pardon the graphic nature of that. Pumping into the septic tank. It's about 70 feet of hose that I'm using right now. Okay, the system now, the black tank is pretty much empty. I'm going to open up the gray tank. Okay, what I'm doing now is tank flush. I have the water connected into the black tank flush. There's quite a bit of solid waste left inside the tank. Pump is fairly quiet. It's handling all this and taking it in stride, no problem. I'm not running it dry, obviously. There's water flowing through. Okay, this is going to be it for the flushing of the tank. I have another camping trip coming up this week for 1 week upstate, at Lake George, so get to play with the macerator pump up at the site there during that week. So I'm going to let this flush out. I'm going to reconnect my quick connect fitting here and plug this into the macerator pump. It's off now. I'm going to turn the water on. Now we'll clean out the macerator pump with some fresh water. Okay, I'm doing a fresh water flush right now of the pump is on, and this is not tank water, this is fresh water. Just want to give you an idea of how much water pressure is coming out of the pump. So we get a nice flow. As I mentioned earlier, the hose is fairly level with the outlet of the RV. Goes up and down a little bit and into the septic inlet. So I can turn the water off and now turn the pump off. So that's it. It did its job. We started this about 45 minutes ago, and it's been running on and off, letting it rest every so often for 10 minutes or so during that time period. And the pump is a little bit warm, but just mildly warm to the touch. Okay, so let me disconnect this. Make sure that there's no pressure in here before I disconnect it. Okay, we're going to take this off up over here. Now this is why you wear gloves. It's not 100% clean water. It's 90% maybe, but not 100%. Okay. Okay, we're at the Lake George RV Park, and I've been dumping the black waste with the standard 3-inch dump hoses, the Stinky Slinkies, and it's been working out fine. I had really no problems, except the slope of the ground was a little bit difficult to deal with. So what I did was I disconnected this, and I'm going to use the macerator pump to compare which method is easier, the standard 3-inch dump hoses or using the macerator pump. So I have the macerator pump is in its case, and I have the hose with the standard hose adapter. I did have to make up an adapter that goes from the hose to the sewer connector at the RV park. I'll look these up on Amazon, see if there's a pre-made adapter, but I was able to cobble together some fittings to go from the 3/4 inch ID hose into a standard sewer adapter. So let me hook this up, and then we'll dump the black and the gray tanks and compare with the standard RV hoses. The setup is similar to what I had at the house. I have the macerator pump hooked up. This time I do have the Valterra gate valve installed in place, because I did have it in place with the standard 3-inch hoses. And I ran the garden hose over to the sewer inlet with the adapter, and that is in there nice and firm, and I have a rock on there just to hold it in place. And we have the waste flowing into the sewer inlet. I'm going to let this run for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to turn the video off. No need to watch the waste flow through the tube. Okay, I'm going to flush out the macerator pump and the fittings and the hose. I'm going to turn the macerator pump on. Here's the fresh water supply. So all in all, this it's not a difficult process, and it wouldn't say it's easier than using the regular hoses. One of the downsides is that with the macerator pump, you can't leave the gray water tank open full time and have it flow through the garden hose. So the shower, the shower empties into the gray tank number 1 on my system, and I'd have to really keep an eye on that to make sure that we don't overflow that gray water tank. And same thing with the gray tank number 2, which is for the kitchen. We couldn't leave those open full time. So I'm going to let this clean out. Then I'll put the hoses away, and the next time we'll clean this out will be at the house. Here you can see that the macerator pump is keeping up with the flow of the flush water from the city water, and the city water is going into the tank to flush it. I do want to point out that the one of the switches that's provided, the switch fed just failed. So I don't know what happened internally. I'm going to take it apart to see, but the switch did fail. Looks like the contacts might have got loose or something inside the switch. So I will take it apart and see what happened after I'm finished flushing it out, if I can control it. May have to plug and unplug it to start and stop the pump. I took the switch housing apart, and it's a fairly small switch. It says it's can't really read this on the camera, but it's rated at 10 amps at 125 volts. So I took the switch apart here just to see what happened to it, and it looks like the switch actually melted from the heat of operation, and literally just fell apart. So that's why it failed. Well, taking the switch apart, it's not any better than the other switch. The contacts are rated at 6 amps at 250 volts. So this will not really be adequate for the 12 amp rating of the macerator pump. Also, contrary to what the instruction manual states, there is no fuse inside of the housing, the switch housings. There is a fuse in the cigarette lighter plug, which is fine, but there's no fuse inside of the switch housing as stated in the instruction manual. Hi, thanks for watching the video. If you found it helpful, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share the video with others. So let's see what's inside the Latch.it RV Macerator Pump. See if I can get the pump housing off using a 5/16 socket. It's a little tight getting in here because of the contours of the housing. Get the bolts started. A little tight to get in there with the because of the contour of the housing. Just a few words. Overall, I was very pleased with the performance of the pump. I wasn't pleased with the switches. The switches need improvement. And I've contacted the Latch.it company and let them know that I had some problems with the switches. I didn't have exactly the right tools, so it was a little bit more difficult to get into that spot. First, I want to point out that there's a rubber gasket here. I'm going to leave that intact. We do have some buildup on the stainless steel impeller, some hair, some tissue material that got caught up on the impeller, so that indicates that probably going to need to reach down in there with the needle nose pliers and clean it off every once in a while. And this is after about 4 or 5 uses, so that is fairly easy to clean off. Okay, we have stainless steel impeller. The housing here is made out of metal. Whether or not you want to keep the bracket on is up to you. I used it as a support for the pump during use. Let me see if I can get the impeller off so I can pull the pump housing completely off. You take off this rubber gasket very carefully, and the impeller with a little stainless steel washer. Got a little bit more hair and debris that's inside of the shaft. Let's see if we can slip this off now. There we go. So here's the pump housing. Another rubber gasket here. And the impellers of the pump are a rubberized impeller. The shaft is keyed to prevent it from rotating on the shaft. So the pump itself is made out of a hard plastic rubber impeller. It looks like it has a brass bushing against a stainless steel shaft. So the construction looks good. Looks like it will provide years of service. I didn't notice any leakage or any problems during use of the pump, and it was fairly quiet. One feature I want to point out, which is a very good feature, is that there's a small check valve built into the pump housing itself, and this check valve will allow water to flow into the pump. And this is the housing for the flush for the pump. So water will be able to flow in, but it will not be able to flow back out. And this will prevent contaminated water from getting into your fresh water supply. And it's always a good idea to use separate hoses for your sanitary and your drinking water. Don't use the same hose, and that'll help prevent cross-contamination. So we have a check valve here, and nice bell housing design. The bayonet mount is durable, made out of hard plastic. And as a tip, what I find is that some of the fittings, not in particular this fitting was snug but not overly tight, is that you can use a very small amount of silicone grease, and I used Odie silicone grease, and you can put a little dab on each of the bayonet mounts. So this one didn't particularly need it, but some of the fittings, some of the Valterra fittings are a little bit tight, and putting a little silicone grease on the bayonet fittings will help out. Don't use a petroleum-based grease on plastic. That's not good for long-term longevity of the plastic. So use silicone grease. Okay, some of the features that we do have: a stainless steel impeller blade, stainless steel hardware, rubber gaskets, which I'm going to put back in with a little bit of silicone grease when I put this back together. And all in all, the construction of the pump is very good. In summary, I like the Latch.it RV Macerator Pump and found it very useful here at my home RV site for dumping into my septic system. Very, very advantageous for that purpose. So if you're going to use it for dumping into your septic system or the city sanitary sewer, that's really a useful accessory for that purpose. At the RV park, I really didn't find that this was advantageous over the standard 3-inch Stinky Slinky. Those were very easy to use at the RV park, and carrying the hose and an adapter, well, it's 6 to 1/2 does the other, but I found that the standard 3-inch hoses worked very well at the RV park, and this really wasn't a necessary accessory for that purpose. If you want to fill up a, let's say, a portable black tank, and you want to dump at a remote site, at a boondocking site or a site that doesn't have a septic system, this could be very useful for that purpose. So anyway, I give this a conditional thumbs up. What I didn't like were the switches that were provided with the pump. And I did contact the Latch.it company and notified them that the switches were underrated, and one of them actually failed during testing and usage. So as I pointed out, and I showed in the taking that switch apart, the switch actually melted, and that indicates that the contacts and the switch were not suitable for the 12-amp load for the macerator pump. So the Latch.it company will look into that and will replace those switches in future models. So thanks for stopping by. Fix, Tinker, Review, Repeat, and we'll see you again in the next video. Before we get started connecting this, I just want to point out that I put together an extension cable. Now this part of the cable, pump. We'll seat the macerator pump. Twist it on. Whoop. Here's a look at inside the switch, and I just have my GoPro with me, so I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but looks like the switch housing actually melted from the heat. Hi, thanks for stopping by. For goodness sake. Hi, thank